All right, so I would like to start off with the land acknowledgement. Humboldt State University is located on present and ancestral homeland and unceded territory of the Wiyot tribe. Please donate to the Wiyot tribe honor tax. We encourage direct giving to tribes and native-led efforts. Tribes and nations in Humboldt County include Hupa, Karuk, Matoli, Talawa, Wailaki, Wiyot, and Yurok. We make this land acknowledgement in recognition that our words must match our actions and approach. Please learn from Dr. Victor Rosling Balsley's lecture, What Good is Land Acknowledgement? And please, if you can, donate to the honor tax. And I will link those down in the chat below. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Erica Andrews, and I am the Marketing and Outreach ASC for Sponsored Programs. And I'd like to welcome you today to our Evaluation for Grant Writers with CCRP Virtual Workshop, presented by Dawn Arledge, Executive Director of HSU's California Center of Rural Policy, CCRP. So glad that you all could be with us today. After the presentation, there will be a short Q&A, so please type any questions that you do have in the chat box below, and someone will answer them probably during or after the presentation. So without further ado, I like to present Dawn. Hello, Dawn.
Hi everyone. Thanks for coming. Nice to see everyone. Really happy to have most of my team here today too. We have Barbara Browning, Alana Smith, Tracy Wynand, and Devin Flynn. So I have a great team that makes everything that happens at CCRP possible. And of course, the amazing team at Sponsored Programs. So thanks, Casey and Susan and both Ericas. Appreciate having you all here too. So let me do a quick introduction. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, and I see Pia from Sponsored Programs too. So this is evaluation for grant writers. Some of you I recognize and know you know about CCRP. Let me see if I can get this on one screen. There we go. But just if you don't know, California Center for Rural Policy, we're a research and evaluation center. Our mission is to inform policy, build community, and promote the health and well-being of people and environments. Our goal is to conduct research and evaluation that can be easily understood and inform policy change. We use the CBPR, or community-based participatory research approach, which at its essence is about involving stakeholders in all phases of the research process. And we were formed in 2005 by a diverse group of community members from Del Norte, Humboldt, Trinity, and Mendocino counties. And over the last 15 years, CCRP's managed a portfolio of over 150 projects. If you know CCRP well, you know that Connie Stewart was our executive director until July of 2020, when I took that role and Connie took a new position in university advancement. So real briefly, our goals at CCRP are to support data-driven decision-making and strategic planning with the goal of improving community health and well-being. We promote evaluation and research that supports continuous quality improvement in projects and systems. We strive to highlight innovative and collaborative efforts in rural communities and to deepen efforts that promote system and policy change, aimed at more social justice for all. So there are 3 topics for today. The first is how to incorporate evaluation into your grant proposal. I'll tell you a little bit about how CCRP can assist with your grant evaluation and research activities, and some of the examples of partnerships we've had with faculty and staff to date. And then I'll tell you a little bit about our current portfolio of projects and our focus areas. So, and I'd love to hear questions in the chat. Anytime, type your questions in. Erica, can you do the poll for us? I'll stop share for a minute, the poll questions.
No problem.
So 3 questions here. If you could answer these, it'll give us a sense of your comfort and experience with evaluation and grant writing. And Erica, if you could put up the results once at least, you know, we've gotten most people responding, that would be great.
Yeah, we have a couple more, so there's only like 3 or 4 more, and I will send them your way.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got 88% report somewhat experienced or very limited experience with writing grants. That's fantastic. So you must be interested. And there's 6% with a lot of experience and 6% with none. Let's look at comfort with designing an evaluation plan for a grant proposal. Kind of similar breakdown to the previous one. So actually, yeah, 94% are either somewhat or not at all comfortable. Well, hopefully this presentation will help a little bit. And implementing an evaluation plan looks like about the exact same breakdown. Okay, so that's great. Thank you for answering that. I hope that today's presentation will answer some of your questions and help with your comfort level. Though I think Erica and Pia will probably back me up in saying the best way is to do it and get experience and learn from the experience. All right, I'm going to share my screen again and talk a little bit about and jump into the first item, which is how to incorporate evaluation into your grant proposal. But before I do that, I did a very detailed analysis on my overall productivity while wearing slippers. And the period of time I decided to look at was before the pandemic and during the pandemic. And you'll be pleased, as I am, to see how much more productive I am in slippers during the pandemic. I mean, who knew? Although I kind of miss the days in which I lounged in my slippers instead of working in them. So unfortunately, this study only has an N of 1. So, you know, it's not worth that much. Okay, on to real business. So how to incorporate evaluation into your proposal. I think the most important thing is to think about evaluation at the beginning, like from the very beginning. When you're considering your goals for your project, think about how you will measure them and how you will know that you achieve them. And so it's never too early to think about evaluation. Also, I think considering different perspectives from people involved in the program. So, you know, the people that the program is for, which in many cases will be students, but also the staff that are implementing the program. And then as well as university and community decision makers who will be interested in what you learn from your program or project. And then choosing a mix of evaluation methods to capture those different perspectives. And we're going to go into more detail on this. I'll probably keep mentioning Pia and Erica because our pre-award specialists know so much about this and are such a resource to us. But I'm sure they'll agree that funders often drive evaluation. Some are very strict and detailed about it, and some don't mention it at all. That doesn't mean you don't want to think about it, though. And we'll talk about why. So your evaluation design, basically, it should align with your theory of change or your logic model. It should align with the primary purpose of your project, your research questions, of course, the resources available. You can't do a large-scale evaluation for a very small project. And then, like I said on the previous slide, the funder's evaluation requirements. So I don't know how many of you have been lucky enough to design logic models, but they look different for different funders. Some funders don't require them, many do, but the logic model is basically like one page high level overview of your project and how it's intended to work. So they all will have different terms, but what I see most typically are these terms. So inputs are the resources you need to implement the project, the people, the things, the stuff. The activities are the strategies to deliver the program. And then the outputs are the product of those activities. So if one of your strategies is to train students, a product would be, I expect to provide 4 trainings to 100 students in the first year. So there's usually numerical data associated with outputs. And then you've got your short-term, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. So these are just examples, but a short-term outcome you might expect would be increased knowledge or skills on the part of program participants. An intermediate outcome might be increased graduation rates for students. And a long-term outcome might be increased number of graduates going to advanced degrees or job placements. So these are really time-based. What would you expect to happen in 6 months? What would you expect to happen in 1 to 2 years? And what would you expect to happen long-term for those who participate in your project? So for evaluation design, I put a quote in here, design is so simple, that's why it's so complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it does require you to have sort of like coherent, articulate vision of what your program is, what you want to accomplish and how you're going to accomplish it. So a process evaluation looks at what the program is doing. Are you implementing it as intended? Did you provide 4 trainings to 100 students? And you don't utilize a comparison group in process evaluation, whereas you may in outcome evaluation, which is really centered around what is the impact? What difference does it make? How does the program change knowledge, attitudes, or behaviors of people that participate? And then I, aligned. So the inputs, activities, and outputs section of your logic model align with your process evaluation, and your outcomes align with, obviously, your outcome evaluation. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. So, the next step is, well, what data should you collect? So you'll want to develop indicators to measure progress and outcomes. And of course, this is all, you probably all know about all these different methods. One is reviewing program records. So that would be like data from institutional research around, grades, graduation, those sorts of records. And then surveys, focus groups, interviews, observation. The thing to think about when you're choosing your methods for your process and outcome evaluation is, what resources do you have available? And what are the limitations of the method you choose? So we could go really deep into this, but because this is just an overview, an example would be if you've got a project that's providing 6 to 10 scholarships for underrepresented students to participate in forestry, say, a forestry degree. Really, interviews are probably doable with the students if you wanted to talk to students about the impact of the program, because you don't have a huge number. A survey might be good to measure changes in knowledge or skill. Usually a survey is better to measure that kind of information. Focus groups, with the work we've done with faculty, focus groups have actually worked well to bring program staff together and kind of talk about what's working, what's not working, or to kind of readjust the program for continuous quality improvement. So all methods have kind of pros and cons for cost and really feasibility and what makes sense for how many people you want to get input from. When we did the child care needs assessment for Humboldt State a couple years ago, we surveyed faculty and staff. We wanted input from as many people as possible. So we did a survey. And then to talk to staff, we did a focus group. So there's lots of things to think about when you choose your different methods. And then this slide is really just about remembering that there are multiple perspectives to capture. So for students, what do you hope will change for students that participate? What do you hope they will gain? For your colleagues, what will you learn about working together and leveraging each other's strengths or specialties? Administrators, well, what will decision makers need to understand about your project? If you're trying to build support for projects that increase the number of underrepresented students in certain disciplines, what is going to compel decision makers or administrators to believe that this is the approach that works, or one approach that works? And then we talked already about, for the staff implementing the program, what was hard and easy? What did you learn? And how did you adapt your efforts in response to what you learned from evaluation. So I just want to spend a couple minutes on some of the kind of myths around evaluation that are really common in all different sectors that we've worked with. So the biggest one is that it takes too much time and it diverts resources away from implementing the program. I want as much funding as possible to go directly to the students who are benefiting from the program or the project. And I definitely understand that kind of common thought, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. It'll interfere with delivering the program. It'll result in the program being eliminated, or my grant will lose funding if the evaluation doesn't show we're achieving our goals. Typically, that is not true. Funders are really interested in you keeping the funding that they've awarded you. And many funders are actually appreciative and understanding both what's working and what isn't. A big one, collecting data that's unnecessary. Yes, that's not good, and it does happen. And that's why kind of thinking about evaluation from the very beginning can be helpful in making sure that you're collecting the right data. It will overly complicate our program. It doesn't have to. It does add work and other pieces, but that's part of what CCRP can help you with if you want help with that. And then we have to move, of course, to benefits of evaluation. So a big one is it provides a logical and focused framework that will guide you as you implement the grant that you've now written and been awarded. Congratulations. Evaluation does generate useful information to help you make changes in real time to improve the program. So let's say you have a partnership with a community college, right? To help recruit students to HSU. And you've got 3 community colleges participating, and you look at your data and see, well, one of the colleges isn't generating any students. They're not referring any students to the program. The sooner you know that, the sooner you, as the principal investigator, can kind of talk to the community college, be like, what's going on? How can we better support you in sending students our way? Evaluation can provide documentation that you can show to other people, and that can help you leverage future funding. And it can help you with strategic planning. Like, this didn't work as well as we thought, but we found out why, and it helps us figure out what to do in the next grant, the next iteration, how to evolve the work so it better meets the needs of the population that you're trying to serve. And then I think for all of us, we want to invest our time and our energy in worthwhile endeavors. And we may learn from evaluation that this is just not the best use of your precious time, of your resources. It doesn't seem like the people you're trying to help are benefiting. And so it can almost, it can help make that tough decision sometimes, is like, is the investment I put into this worth it for me personally, or for the students that we were trying to serve through the project? So that's the piece on how to incorporate evaluation into your grant proposal. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. Alana, did I miss anything?
Nope, I've been looking, haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. So before I jump into our second topic, I do want to say that we are really happy to talk one-on-one with anyone about this in more detail, or, you know, we've regularly done meetings with faculty where they're like, here's what we're really interested in doing, and this is how we think we could work with CCRP. So just so you know, this is a bigger group setting here, but we're always open to one-on-one conversations. So we'll give you all our contact information. So yes, Greg, that is a good question. A grant that is not related to CCRP. So, you know, of course, we're always really interested in what, like I said, like innovative projects and programs that are happening in rural communities. So we would be interested, but the way that CCRP is funded as a center of sponsored programs is through grants and contracts, and we're not funded by stateside or state dollars. And so partnering with CCRP really does mean partnering in terms of sharing resources. And that's kind of the next piece of the presentation. But really, it's a good question, an important question. I wish that we could do that, but and I still think, like I said, we're really interested in some of the work that's happened, you know, when HSU became eligible for Hispanic Serving Institution grants. When appropriate, I think looking at some of those grants across the university and how they've been impacting students, like there could be some real benefit in that. And those kind of conversations, like we'd love to have. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the next part of the presentation, which is supporting grant writers at HSU. So this is the part, how to incorporate CCRP into your grant proposal. And I'm going to give you some ideas of what we can do, and also some examples. So when I say supporting grant writers, we are talking about kind of pre-award. What CCRP can do is we can serve as your third-party evaluator. We can and do provide bio sketches, resume, CV for key staff, and letters of support for your proposal, or a letter of commitment to be your evaluator. And we could do scopes of work and or review or assist with the evaluation part of your proposal. So Greg, in regards to your question, these are all things we would do pre-award. So you don't have to, there doesn't have to be funding attached, but ideally there would be funding written in for CCRP if you get the proposal. One thing we haven't done a lot of, but I want to put out there is, and we did recently author a grant where CCRP was the lead on the grant, but there were faculty partners. So this is not typical for how we've worked on campus before, but we kind of dipped our toes into that. And so that would mean that I would be the principal investigator, and then a faculty could be like the co-PI, obviously funding written in for all those parties as part of the grant. Another thing we've done is and this is really, you know, this one is actually post-award. So let me skip to the last bullet. first is Pia and Erica have both been extremely supportive of and helpful to CCRP. And the point of this bullet is to say that we can kind of all work together. So like you're writing the proposal, you know, I'm sending our budget to Pia. She has the, you know, benefit numbers to plug in for our staff. Pia and Eric are helping pull the proposal together. So it's kind of nice that we all work together with pre-award to develop the budget and the grant. Post-award, and I'm going to talk more about this, is that CCRP can provide research support for your grant when it's funded. Congratulations. And we can design and conduct surveys, focus groups, interviews. I'm going to go into more specific examples of this actually, so that's enough to say about that. We are here for you and really want to support faculty who are seeking external funding in whatever way that we can. So I wanted to just give you a brief overview of some of our capacity to support grants post-award. All our staff are CITI certified and have experience writing IRB applications and all the supporting documents associated with IRB. Typically, when we work with faculty, it's with the faculty as principal investigator. And so, you know, the PI is the one that submits, but I'm the PI on a number of our projects. And so our staff are all experienced in that. We have staff trained in a variety of survey platforms, expertise in the collection and analysis of qualitative and quantitative data. Pretty much everyone on our team has lots of expertise in applied research. And if you're ever interested in having one of our newer staff, like recent graduates, come to your classes and talk to your class about applied research and what they do at CCRP, as long as they're willing, I am very supportive of that, so that your students can see what a career in applied research might look like. We have a lot of connections with community partners. You'll see when I get to our part of the presentation where we talk about our portfolio. We're experienced report writers, and then we have a lot of experience with all the kind of processes and forms for sponsored programs. Okay, so these are some of the projects we've done with HSU faculty and staff. We conducted a child care needs assessment for HSU. Some of you might remember taking that survey a couple years ago. We worked with the economics department on a grant and did a survey of California hospitals regarding proposed regulatory changes. So in that project, the faculty member just contracted with us to do that survey. And then he did all of the regulatory impact assessment and the cost benefit analysis and all the economics specialty stuff, but we did the survey. We were the evaluator for forestry and wildland resources on their Hispanic Serving Institution Education Grant. So we did student surveys, interviews, we did some faculty focus groups, which were actually really interesting. We assisted social work with the evaluation of the OSNAP program. This was the one I spoke about earlier. We co-authored a cannabis research grant with faculty from sociology and social work to study the impact of cannabis on youth. We did not receive the grant, but we worked hard on it. And you know, the future is unknown. A smaller piece we did was a support letter for kinesiology department's North Coast Fall Prevention Program grant application. And so we just did a letter kind of saying we support programs like this, like fall prevention is important for the health and well-being of seniors. It was actually focused on seniors. And they used some research that we had done on senior falls in their grant proposal too. Another thing is we may have collected data or know about data that might be useful for your grant, another kind of pre-award thing. We are just getting started as the evaluator for Wildlife Department's USDA capacity building grant to increase the number and diversity of students entering food and agriculture-related sciences. And we recently worked with the education department on a college assistant migrant program grant application. And then we're currently doing, we're the evaluator for an outdoor leadership in forest management degree. So you can see a lot of our work is as evaluator, but we also have provided research support. These are just examples. So if you have other ideas, fantastic, reach out, let's talk. If it doesn't gel and work, that's fine. If it does, hopefully it's a win-win. And then I just wanted to share, this was a slide that we shared with the board of directors for sponsored programs. And just to give you a sense of kind of our future vision and what work we would like to be doing and expanding on is providing program evaluation for faculty and staff working on grants, exploring partnerships with faculty and staff to implement research grants by providing research support. And by the way, we can also work alongside your student researchers too. If you have students in your department that you specifically want to engage, it doesn't have to be one or the other. We really want to be connecting HSU projects with community-based efforts that share vision, a similar vision. And of course, we want to support HSU's strategic goals and visions. And then we would love to expand the opportunities for students to do applied research with us, either in a volunteer or paid capacity or through internships. In terms of the community, we really want to continue to be responsive to community needs, which is really one of the main ways that we maintain our portfolio of projects is we are responsive. And I'll talk about that when I show the slide of what we did this week. We want to expand our rural county reach and work with more rural California counties because we are the California Center for Rural Policy. We want to keep saying yes to large and small projects that build capacity in rural communities. And like I already said, but I really want to highlight, because I think it's core to our mission, is to highlight innovative and collaborative efforts to tackle complex social problems. I'm going to stop share for a moment. That's section 2. Oh, thanks, Susan, for saying we do a good job with submissions. Thank you for being so responsive to our applications. Alana, did I miss anything else in the chat?
Nope, you got it. That was the, oh, there's a comment here. HSU off-campus housing really needs some help. They have 3 major projects going on that seem fitting.
Well, let's reach out and have a conversation about this. We'll make a note and reach out to you, Shante. Let's talk. And you know, some of these, like I said, I sort of wanted today to be big picture overview. I'm sorry to do so much talking. If you attend meetings we facilitate, this is really not the norm. But I just wanted kind of this high level overview to get you to be thinking about and knowing a little more about what we could do and ways we could collaborate. Okay, thank you though. Thank you for that comment in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna go on to telling you a little more about what CCRP does. And to be fair, I hope it's not too much information. My goal is to kind of show the breadth and depth of projects and partners. But I kind of struggle to keep keep it concise. So you all could be the judge of if I've accomplished that or not. Okay, part 3. Oh, yes, Alana.
One more question just came in. Is there a listserv to be added to for other conversations CCRP facilitate? So we're going to do the sort of thing again.
Yeah. Well, no, there isn't, but that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I think we'll talk with sponsored programs after today's presentation. And one of the things too, I wanted to kind of hear from everyone at the end is like, what else do you want to know? And is there any other, information we can provide? Or so, Anna, thank you for that question. We'll definitely follow up on that. Thanks, Alana. Okay, so CCRP's has a kind of a very dynamic portfolio. Like I was saying, we have kind of large projects, small projects, short term, long term, but this is a partial list of some of our recent and current partners. And we have really enjoyed our work with United Indian Health Services. I'll be talking a little bit more about that. We've been working with a number of county jurisdictions on their cannabis social equity assessments. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Those of you who are interested in early childhood development know about the first 5 associations. We've been doing a lot of work with them. Some private foundations like the California Endowment, the California Wellness Foundation, and Humboldt Area Foundation. That's just a few. A substance abuse treatment program in Eureka that's trying some really innovative approaches, waterfront recovery services, and a neighborhood association in Eureka, the West Side Community Improvement Association, who runs the Jefferson Community Center, for those of you who know about any of the amazing work that is being done there. And quite a few projects with Humboldt County Public Health and Redwood Community Action Agency, or RCAA. And then of course our university partners too. If I had to cluster our portfolio right now into 4 categories, this was my attempt to do that. And I'm going to give you some examples, but these are our main partners and work is kind of centered in these areas, not because this is the only thing we do, but because this is where the need is right now, and like I was saying, how we try to be responsive to needs and kind of say yes. These are the areas: social equity, tribal public health programs, building healthy communities, which can mean a lot of different things, but is really tied to the big initiative we're doing in Del Norte with the California Endowment. And then the health and well-being of children ages 0 to 5. So we do our annual Centers and Institute report to sponsored programs. And I just wanted to kind of throw a bunch of stuff out here just to give you a sense of, we're working with like 6 or 7 jurisdictions right now on cannabis social equity work, which involves a equity assessment and then the development of a local equity program. The real mission of this work is to look at people most impacted by cannabis criminalization and poverty, and the state through the SB 1294, the Cannabis Equity Act. The state is providing funding to jurisdictions to help people who are impacted by criminalization or poverty enter and succeed in the legal cannabis industry. So it's all about kind of trying to level the playing field for who has access to the industry now that it's legal. It's not really a judgment like a pro or anti-cannabis stance. It's all about there being social equity and who can enter and thrive in that business now that it's a legal industry. And we've done several oral health needs assessments for Humboldt County, Trinity County. Alana and Tracy right now are leading up our environmental scans, looking at home visiting and early childhood support services in 3 counties. Barbara is leading up our health career pathways work in Del Norte County and did some amazing work on career and technical education pathways in Curry County. Devin's been fantastic helping us with all of our cannabis equity assessments. And then we've done I mentioned Waterfront Recovery Services, the substance abuse treatment program. And then, some of the work with tribes. So we did a USDA grant, Good Food Makes Us All Healthy, with the Taloa Dene Nation, a 4-year grant. They had to work on food security. And with UIHS, we've been working with their tobacco prevention, suicide prevention, tribal opioid response, their COVID response. They got some COVID response dollars that they gave out to 7 of the local tribes. And we've been doing the evaluation for that. It's been really great. We value all of these partnerships. So this is a slide that I debated, this is not meant to be we work so hard, blah, blah, just, I put this here to show what a week looks like at CCRP. And it kind of exhausted me trying to do it. And it reflects the work of our team. And so you'll see, of course, on here is one of the things I worked on this week was this presentation. But also this is just a taste of this is what we do. This is what our staff is working on right now. Isadora is working on case studies on early childhood literacy and food security programs in Del Norte. Isadora and Devin and Barbara have been working with the Yurok tribe on a very large grant proposal called Promise Neighborhoods. It's due Sunday, fingers crossed that the Yurok tribe gets this opportunity. CCRP is the proposed evaluator if they get this grant. Alana and Tracy have been doing one-on-one interviews with home visiting programs in Humboldt County. Economic Development reached out to me this week. They want to do a study of their workforce, possible restructuring of their workforce development board and efforts. And so we're going to help them with the report that's going to the Board of Supervisors in May. This is the project that Alana and Devin will be helping with, but they don't know anything about yet because I literally just had the conversation with Scott Adair yesterday about this. Devin and Dominic and I met with Sonoma County and the city of Santa Cruz to launch their cannabis equity assessments. I did a presentation on the value of care coordination to the Humboldt County Oral Health Leadership Team. Connie and I attended a webinar with the CDC for our evaluation of UIHS's Tribal Practices Grant. Barbara did and will be continuing to provide lots of technical assistance and support to the Building Healthy Communities Initiative in Del Norte. And kind of one-on-one meetings with their staff, helping them stay on track. Alana did a presentation on a partnership survey we did with the center at McKinleyville, the building that's being built right behind the Starbucks in McKinleyville. If you live there and have seen that building as it's being constructed, we're the evaluator for that. And then as part of that project, actually, Alana and I met with a couple of students from the Black Student Union and learned about some of their efforts and talked to them about how evaluation can, magnify the impact of the important work they're doing. So, team, I know I didn't capture everything, but that was a mouthful. I hope that wasn't too much information, but this is a very stimulating organization to work for. I am never bored and always excited. There's always new things happening at CCRP. So I think I pretty much covered this, and I see that I'm almost out of time. I think that this is pretty much covered. The only thing I didn't talk about was strategic planning and facilitation, which is also part of the services that we provide. And I think I already pretty much covered our vision in a previous slide. The only new thing on here is that we're really interested in research to better understand how trauma and adverse childhood experiences can, the impact, and then also mitigation strategies with a focus on rural communities. This is an area we're really interested in. If I realize we're almost out of time, but I was hoping you could type into the chat. Is there anything else you either want to know more about or would like more information on? Because maybe we could do a follow-up workshop. So if you could put that in the chat. but I have to end with a huge thank you to sponsored programs for all that they do to support us. We could not do anything we do without them. And I would love it if any of you reached out to me or any of our staff if you'd like to know more or talk about anything else. I just put my email in the chat in case that went by too fast. Anything else I missed in the chat, Alana?
No, you got it all. That was everything.
Thank you all so much. I really would love to meet and talk to each of you. And I hope if you are interested in the presentation, I hope you'll reach out. And Shante, we will definitely reach out to you. Thanks for putting that in the chat. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Erica Andrews, for being a wonderful facilitator and helping us do this. We couldn't have done it without you.
Anytime. And thank you for such a wonderful workshop. Again, if any of you have any questions, put it in the chat before we end. If not, you have Dawn's email. Please contact them. They're such a wonderful staff, and their contributions to sponsor program and research in general is just insurmountable. So I want to thank, if that's the end of our workshop, I want to thank each and every one of you. This, like I said before, this workshop is recorded, so it will be up on our YouTube later this week or early next week. So thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the little bit of sun that we do have left, and have a wonderful day. Thank you again, Dawn and Alana.
Thank you.